Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look. Well, hello, everybody. Tonight, thank you for tuning in and listening to Night Shadows. We're going to have an interesting show, I think. There's a lot going on that people are not being told, and Larry's going to be updating us on a lot of that stuff. And I also want to get into this new discovery and the UFOs and the aliens. It all ties together. Hi, Larry. How you doing?
Hello, Stuart. Thanks for having me.
Oh, love to have you on. Where do we start with this thing? It seems like, why don't we start domestically? We seem to be hearing, as we have said before, kind of a domestic, where the left, we'll say, is going virtually insane, and the right is trying to just reason with them, which doesn't appear to be happening. But now we're having riots. It seems like we're having a civil war that appears to be going hot. What's your take on what's happening?
Oh, I agree, Stuart. You're exactly right. Domestically, we're having, as some are now beginning to use the terminology, basically a civil war activated in this nation. And Lou Dobbs was talking, last night and tonight also again on Fox about how that it seems the left is going completely insane and moving in the areas of sedition and, treason. Of course, we don't hear words like sedition and treason anymore. That's not the vocabulary of the politically correct in America. So, but maybe Donald Trump's administration is going to bring those words back out of mothballs and put them out front, maybe highlight them a little. They had a riot again last night at New York University, as they did Berkeley the day before, and, the left no longer tolerates no free speech at all, unless it goes along with the left, and they're coming out of the woodwork, and more reports are being, we're being admonished to look where the money comes from, who's funding these people, who's funding the protesters, because these are simply not protesters, as a number of people today, all day long, have talked on Fox. They're saying this is riots. This is attacking people, attacking buildings. This is not free speech. This is not the First Amendment. This is anarchy coming to play, and that's exactly what you warned of.
Well, what's interesting to me, too, is that George Soros is funding John McCain. I was listening to or reading an article and watching a video on it. He's also, though, funding people like Lindsey Graham and the Republican side of things. This is kind of interesting that we have even senators. I know the Lord said he was going to reveal corruption and everything else, and the pedophile rings are beginning to get exposed. I was watching a horrific deal out of England where it was called 60 Minutes, so they must have borrowed the American 60 Minutes. But it's horrendous, and it involves people all the way to the top. And they were interviewing people that had been involved in it, little kids that were taken when they were little, or sold out, or went to orphanages, kind of like what's been trying to, a lot of people have tried to expose Boys Town, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But according to the bots, this pedophile is going to be exposed. And it's going to be such a shock to people, not only in the United States, but around the world. And it's going to involve religion as well. That a lot of religious leaders are involved in this thing. So they're going to do everything. I guess what I'm getting at is, it seems to me that the left, the progressive, the communists, the Marxists, are going to have to pull out all the stops to accomplish. It's a coup. It's a communist coup. And I don't know whether not Obama, but Trump is being used by the Illuminati. Everybody that knows him says he's very sincere, and this is what he wants to do, and he's trying his best to get it done. But it seems like it's escalating against him in all forms that it can take. What do you think?
No, I think you're exactly right. He's been in, 2 weeks now, basically, maybe 15 days, and he has upset the whole world order. In other words, the whole New World Order has been turned on its head in 2 weeks by a Donald Trump administration that's not even fully in office yet. They can't even get all their people into office. And they're also having leaks after leaks. Darnett told me that there have been reports that they're firing some CIA people that have been leaking, and what's happening, Stuart, is a lot that they're doing. There's a lot of treason going on in this nation, and there are some reports coming out now that there may be people going to prison soon. And as a matter of fact, there's the ominous rumor in the background still that the Clintons are under investigation. We know that Trump kept James Comey, and I think the left are literally scared to death. But Trump may have to literally go to martial law to rule. They're going after him. They've gone after him in every which way they can, and anybody that works for him. The threats are just flying. Matter of fact, interesting, I like your opinion. You said you were worried about him going to the Super Bowl this weekend, which was announced. And now I heard today he suddenly has flown to what they call his winter home, the winter White House, so to speak, in Florida for conferences and work all this weekend in Florida. He's not going to the Super Bowl.
Well, what's interesting, too, is that the Super Bowl is still number 2 threat level. Or virtually, it is the highest threat level in the United States right now. So it makes you wonder if they wouldn't try a false flag. I always get nervous around Super Bowl times because of the statement that could be made, like The Sum of All Fears, the movie. And you read a little bit from the book itself. And they're not above doing anything. These people have no conscience. They're just biological computers. Their conscience is totally seared, and I'm sure they would be pleased to kill off a bunch of people. That's just the way they think. It's the way they work. But speaking about Trump, you have to also speak about Obama, who appears now to be positioning himself to be the number uno leader of the opposition. What do you think about that?
I find it very telling, Stuart. You warned about this. You began to talk about, we wasn't sure that Obama would leave office. And then, of course, Trump won, and then Trump made it to Inauguration Day and made it through Inauguration Day. And Obama did fly. Everybody saw him fly out to California where he's been. But there are reports. We saw the Democrats who just lost their minds recently, it appears, and the left trying to call Obama out of what they call his silence, call him back into the forefront to attack Trump and a Trump administration. And there are reports coming out now that Obama is interjecting himself again into this so-called revolution against Trump and his administration. And it appears, because a lot of the Democrats are not even voting. I mean, they're not even coming to Congress to even, do any interviews. They're just simply not there. It appears there's a plan in the background by the rich men that they think they can delegitimize a Trump administration, impeach him suddenly, and like you've said before, Obama may not be gone such as people think. He may just have received a voting wound in the head maybe, and he's going to come back. And it appears he's on his way to begin again to lead this revolution. This is the classic Jeremiah, ruler against ruler, Stuart. We are literally seeing this played out.
Yeah, and the other thing is Isaiah talks about how the government actually literally starts to break down and they can't govern, which appears to be happening. If you've got, Congress, well, the Democrats are pulling out all the stops, and some of the Republican leaders, the establishment, which is really the communist coup that's been kind of silent right along, and Obama seemed to be the apex of it. And then along comes old Donald, with his monkey wrench, and he's tinkering with their new world order. And they don't like it. So, but I really do believe there was a lady who had a vision, I guess, and she's had one before that was correct. She had a couple, I guess, that weren't. So you have to just throw caution to the wind here when you listen. But this one was a little different. She said she saw Obama. She was in some room, and Obama was talking to this guy who was writing notes. And Obama was saying, I'm going to bring chaos. I've got to bring chaos to America. They deserve chaos, and I'm going to give them what they deserve. And the guy that he was talking to, I can't remember the name now. I don't have it in front of me. But it is the very name of the guy that is now the voice for Obama.
Huh.
She says, chaos is coming. Well, you saw bloodbath in your vision. So it seems to me that they've got something planned, probably in the not very distant future. They're going to ride this wave, and then we've got the other things going on. We'll have to get into that, too. We got earth changes are growing the world over. And I want to get into what the bots have to say about what's coming, which also verifies Native American prophecies against America. And the Antarctica New Discovery seems to be ever growing. So where do we want to start? What is going on now with Iran? Because this leads us, I think, into Daniel chapter 8.
It's very interesting, Stuart, that you brought up. You've been talking about something called a Daniel 8 war. And, here recently after you brought that up and we began talking about the Daniel 8 war, I went back and reread it and studied it, and wow, it sounds like an aerial attack on Iran from the West. And now this is what's interesting, Stuart, is the fact. Let me read you Debka files today, because we know that Donald Trump has now imposed new Iran sanctions against the Iranians over recent missile tests, and then there's feedback too. Today there was an announcement out of Iran and threats from the senior advisor to the Khamenei that Iran was not going to take threats lightly from a Trump administration, and they were going to fight back. And so let me read these two headlines, though, because it's very interesting. Yes. This is Debka file out of Israel today. It says, President Donald Trump ends second week in office with move to cut Iran down to size as world prepares for possible Iranian hit back at U.S. allies, Saudi Arabia and Israel. Now, that's rather telling. And then there's a follow-up report. We knew that Iran had fired a ballistic missile, which is in violation, of course, of the, UN resolution that was set up in that deal. But listen to this headline here, because it included a little more information. This is Debka file again out of Israel. It says Iran's latest ballistic missile test was masked and a failed satellite launch into orbit. In other words, apparently they were launching. It was not a ballistic missile test, is what they're saying. If you read through the writing, they actually tried to launch something into orbit. Now, this evening, I believe it was Lou Dobbs had the U.S. ambassador, the former U.S. ambassador, on, and he said that what they launched was, and we're just now hearing this, Stuart. What they launched was something into orbit that included a package with a reentry vehicle. Now, Stuart, the only thing that re-enters our atmosphere launched from a missile is got to be a missile or a nuclear weapon reentry package.
Either that or, which it would be nuclear anyway if it was an EMP. And they might decide, well, let's just launch one here and we'll take out New York City. We'll take out the entire East Coast with an EMP attack. I mean, that's very possible. And remember the tests that North Korea was undergoing, and the experts kept saying, oh, they're just failing, they don't know what they're doing. But some other experts came online and said, wait a minute, these are low-yield weapons, and they are for EMP attacks. So we are really living in kind of dangerous times.
Well, it is, Stuart, and
go ahead.
I was just going to include there the rhetoric we've heard recently about North Korea really being a parallel nuclear program with Iran, and we already know that there is something launched into orbit that has been going over the U.S. once a day or twice a day for months now. We don't know what it is. Nobody seems to know. But apparently something with a reentry package was fired in Iran. Now this is what's interesting. Immediately when this happened, we didn't hear anything. All we knew was it was a ballistic missile. We didn't hear any of the other data that's starting to come out now. But whatever it was triggered Trump to immediately begin to, remember he had, well, I still call him General Michael Flynn, but, he's an advisor, immediately came on and gave a warning to, and he came on during a White House news briefing and gave a warning to Iran and, basically, put them so-called on warning. And what's interesting, too, I understand now that maybe more than one, but at least the USS Cole is now, in the region of the Red Sea in that area of near Iran, and it is a missile, I don't know whether it's a frigate or what you call it, but it's a missile, vessel. And so Trump has began moving assets. Whatever this is, Trump is very serious, and he came on he did a tweet today, which is ironic. He did a tweet to Iran, and he said, you're very lucky because you took advantage of a different kind of person, Obama, for a number of years. He said, basically that he's not here anymore. I'm here, and I'm serious. Exclamation point. They said that was a warning straight to Iran. So when you talk about, Stuart, a Daniel 8 war, you may be exactly right, and we may be moving into that quickly.
Well, let me read for the people who are not familiar with it. This Daniel chapter 8. I'm going to read a few verses. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns, and 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other. And the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, southward. That's got to be a military move that Iran makes, because the experts almost all agree. Number one, it's a dual-fold prophecy, but it's going to occur in the latter days, which we are definitely in the latter days. Anyway, it says that no beast could stand before him. It's a blitzerig, and they just kind of wipe out everything that they hit. I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. Now, that sounds just like Trump. And I saw him come close to the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. So here we go with a war. And Trump's not going to back down. And isn't it the clerics in Iran? Don't they want? They've always been talking about a war, a big war, from which the 12th Ayman comes from, right?
Yeah, that's
Antichrist.
true. They want an apocalyptic war. It's the kind they want. They want to bring on a war of fury. I mean, they want to start it because they think they can bring that Ayman in, and they think they have the power, and they really believe the time is now. And that's what's interesting. What you said, Trump is not going to back down. And that's what. And the scriptures you read, it sounds like a missile or an aviation war. It sounds like that the military doesn't touch the ground. It doesn't come on the ground. It flies through the air, whatever the attack is. And, as I said before, when you look west, you're looking across Iraq and then out to the Mediterranean, which we've got ships.
Yes.
Not so much, but we're moving things. We're moving assets. But, Russia's sitting out there. China's sitting out there right now in the Mediterranean, and a lot of people don't have a clue. China's there with 3 warships.
Yes. I don't know, Larry. I think we're heading into some really tough times here because Trump is not the type, and neither is Mad Dog Mantis. He's the type that he's already probably given everybody, that in order to bring assets of a carrier or a cruise missile attack ship, that has to come from him. So the orders have evidently been given to move assets so that they can take out Iran if they have to. So,
well, and what's interesting, Stuart, is Secretary of Defense Mattis. He's in South Korea, or was yesterday, talking to South Korea and also warning the North Korea, who's been also threatening a Trump administration. And so maybe the U.S. is about to face head-on the North Korean and the Iranian threat, which are really parallel nuclear threats.
Well, it's kind of interesting that if we got into a major war, and they're all calling for that. Now, the 12th Ayman is what we would call Antichrist. But there were clerics who years ago, when Obama came to power, said he was the 12th Ayman. That's what they were looking for.
Well, Stuart, don't you find it interesting? I was just going to say, Stuart, and get your opinion here real quick. Don't you find it interesting that Obama has spent 8 years empowering and projecting Iran on a nuclear path?
Well, he would do that. He would enable that just for the war. And don't forget that he got the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, nobody could ever figure out why he got it because he's. But Antichrist is a man of peace, and by peace he destroys many. So I'm intrigued at this move of Obama to begin criticizing Trump and, like you said, enabling Iran. He was an enabler. And maybe they let it go too far. But, you have the Illuminati, and they say that nothing of importance ever happens unless it was approved. And, of course, the hierarchy of that is Satan and his minions down below. So they're orchestrating all of this to bring about, I believe, World War III, which then brings about the new world order, the arrival, and, the aliens, so-called, the fallen ones, will come down and say, you guys got to quit all this stuff because you're just going to blow us off the face of the map. So we got to stop all this. And when Stan Deyo did his study in Daniel and the arrival and the extraterrestrials, so-called. So, yeah, it all kind of ties back, I think. But you're right. Wasn't it Dr. Doom, Ed Dames, who said that North Korea would be the first to use nuclear weapons in anger?
Yes, he was.
Do you remember?
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what he said.
Now, isn't it Mad Dog that says if North Korea uses nukes, they're going to pay a huge price? It seems to me I saw that.
I think I had heard that. I believe you told me that one, but apparently that was the first place that Mattis went when he left as Secretary of Defense. He flew to South Korea immediately and began to have dialogue with the South Korean temporary leader that they've got right now, and also, rhetorically confront the North Korean threat that has been building for some time now. As a matter of fact, there's reports recently, satellite reports, that they're North Korea are preparing to fire some more missiles and possibly set off another nuke.
Well, and then you have the Chinese that are building these islands in the South China Sea, and it seems to me, if I remember, our administration, Trump and company, have warned the Chinese about that. So all the encroaching enemies are being warned, you better quit. I don't hear anything where they're saying, yeah, we will. I hear just the opposite. Obstinance. We're going to do what we want. Now, technically, Iran is a sovereign nation, and it should be able to do whatever it wants. And the Bible more or less indicates that we have no business in any of this over there, but we're there, we do, and I guess this is all just part of the plan to bring about World War III, which the neocons want so desperately. So,
well, what's interesting too, Stuart, is the fact that Iran, even their dialogue the last few years, all they want to do really is attack Saudi Arabia and Israel. They want to attack them worse than the U.S., but they're telling Trump that he will cause the problems if he continues to push them or deal with them about this missile issue or the pact. But and now you've got Debka File reporting that the world is preparing for an Iranian hit back, because of the U.S., but they're going to hit back at U.S. allies, Saudi Arabia and Israel. So, Trump, remember, he came out just a minute, he was inaugurated and made a statement that he was supporting and protecting Israel. So what do you think he would do if they attack Israel or Saudi Arabia?
Just what Daniel 8 says. Yeah, and if you read further in Daniel 8, I believe it's talking about the Antichrist and the rise of the Antichrist. So it all starting to fit together. And getting on to other news, what is this UFO that was photographed by Google on a ramp at, where was that, JPL?
Oh, absolutely. Stuart, I posted on George Nuri, and them promoted that. I sent you photographs of that because of remember the images of the saucer craft that were in your Tithonia
yes.
production? And
yes.
I thought they looked similar, and I wanted you to look at that because somebody suddenly saw these in the open and took photographs of them.
So they're getting brazen now. They're putting them right out there, and it seems almost like they don't care. And the
what's
UFO.
Interesting, Stuart, yeah, I was just going to say what's really interesting is Eli Marzulli. and he had posted yesterday, I believe. He has now come out saying that he thinks that official disclosure is almost imminent. And I know you're talking about Antarctica and how this may tie to Mars.
Yes. Well, the UFO on the JPL ramp, same shape as what was on Mars, and they appear to be German Heinebus, which are a type of saucer craft. They have quite a few now. Insiders claim that they had 2 or 3 operationals, but who knows how many they actually had, because it was Operation High Jump with Admiral Byrd that went down there, and they were attacked by UFOs, circular craft. And what makes me believe that all of this is really true is an incident I had myself, and I've seen 2 in my aviation career. And you know what's interesting? In the flight manuals, FAA flight manuals, they have a section on reporting UFOs. Now, why would they have that in there if there wasn't something to it?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was flying aloft with this guy who was a commander, naval commander, and it was fairly late at night. We were just sitting up there, listening to the radio crackle here and there, and flight centers talking to other aircraft. That's it. And all of a sudden, he started to tell me about a huge saucer-shaped UFO that landed at a deserted air base, and how really high-level civilians and military brass, I'm talking stars now, on the shoulders, and they went on board this thing and stayed for 4 or 5 hours. Now, he claimed this was totally real, and every bit of it was real. He was not one to be lying about anything. And it makes you wonder just how much is going on down there in Antarctica. And I believe probably what they have found are maybe strange structures. But I'm also beginning to hear stuff from the bots about a library. That maybe there's a huge library down there, and what it does, and I'll read part of it, but it destroys the religions of the world. In other words, this thing is not good. For example, data sets at the Antarctica and the Discovery showing up as altering Christmas in 2017 for most of these in the global population who involved themselves in that holiday. The alteration of Christmas is not alone. The data has Antarctica revelations being so affecting of religious humanity that Jewish and Islamic, to a lesser extent, holidays are also changed profoundly. The language suggests that we will be reading speculations about, is this the end of religions and their holidays as we have known it? This has to be a profound, amazing, if not, how do I say, on purpose? I never trust these guys. That's my conspiratorial mind. But this sounds kind of ominous. And remember, Antichrist changes times and laws. Well, how can he do it unless he has some proofs with him?
Well, wasn't that what No Eyes talked about, Stuart? No Eyes talked about they would come with proof.
Yes, identical. And she says this proof will be so overwhelming that it'll destroy Christianity, basically. The way she words it is, what about the Bible? What about first man, first woman? That no longer stand up now. So that destroys the Bible. Now, the bots claim that the history of that's outlined in the scriptures will be destroyed as being false and fake and set up just as a religion. So this is deadly serious stuff. And
another thing too, Stuart.
Go ahead.
I was just going to mention quickly here and get your opinion of this. There isn't some more reports coming out. I hadn't posted anything, but there seems to be some reports. You remember Moldashev and the Russian researching and hunting for graves and giants and artifacts, that's been going on for a number of years. Well, there's a report coming out now. Remember, the Russian forces were activated and moving and setting up bases in the Arctic, the North Pole, the Arctic, and we wondered why that was happening. And Obama was withdrawing our forces back into the continental U.S. away from the Arctic. Now there are some scattered reports, and I can't verify them at the moment, but they seem to be indicating that the Russians have found the graves of giants and structures possibly in the Arctic where it's melted some.
Yeah, Linda Moulton Howe ran a whole article on her website about the pyramids. She even had the pictures of them in the Arctic regions. These things are appearing all over the world. And you remember what the Lord had to say, I will pick their delusions. And this is part of that overall strong delusion. And it gets all the way back into evolution, and if you are evolving, you don't need a redeemer. And this is the attack upon the redemption aspect of Christianity. You just don't need somebody to come down here and redeem the human race because, number one, it hasn't fallen, it's just evolving. And so the root of this whole thing is what I call the evolutionary conspiracy. And anybody that would think for even a minute would be able to come up with the idea that evolution cannot possibly be true. One of the favorite ones I've seen is a tornado goes through a junkyard, and after it's passed, you have a 747, a runway, a control tower, ready to go. And that's about what they're telling you to believe.
Well, what's interesting too, Stuart, you mentioned the recent, the last 10 years, we had a movie come out called Mission to Mars, and you mentioned that in your Lightgate Blogger today, your post, and I remember that. I watched that closely with Gary Sinise, and that was an incredible movie, and it really lays out the scenario you're talking about.
Yes, they promoted evolution. In fact, there was a holographic presentation to the crews that had come to Mars by this alien being. And I'm beginning to wonder if we're not going to find aliens down there that are going to reveal themselves, alien structures. And I think the way they're going to set this up, I've been kind of thinking about it, it's pre-Adamic, what they're finding. And a lot of people don't realize that the Bible does teach that before Adam and Eve, the world was recreated basically for us. But before that, there were other entities here.
Exactly.
Well, so what they could do then is merge the ancient before Adam and Eve with us and say, see, it's a perfect fit. Because they can say, well, see, our history is so complicated. And we go back for millions of years. And I think the general public's going to buy into it, hook, line, and sinker. I don't think they stand a chance. You're going to have proof.
Well, sure.
So that go ahead.
I was just going to mention your images of Typhonia and the research that you did there. Did that not show ancient, possibly pre-flood Earth, Mars, plus you said it looked like modern dwellings and buildings and technology being operated. So you've even got on Mars, if that's accurate, and what the research you did is accurate, an ancient past that still exists and a newer structure system built around it, including saucer craft.
Yeah, you may remember Total Recall with Schwarzenegger, and
Yes.
that had ancient aliens involved in it. This is wild, and I think it's going to fool people. We should spend some time on it maybe a little bit later, but that's a couple-hour program actually if you want to get into it. There's a lot to it, but I do believe I wanted to pick up on Earth changes here from the bots and get your comment. Other effects tied to the data to atmospheric changes include increasing reports of burning from mere minutes exposure to direct sunlight because of a new type of UV ray. However, the nature of the burning rays will not be determined for some time according to the data, as burning rays will have physical evidence, including peeling paint, sunburned humans, animals, and plants. Other effects are showing, including softened metals, destroyed plastics. The problems that seem to be the issue is that these effects will be both irregular and not uniformly distributed. That sounds like the South Atlantic, or was it the North Atlantic anomaly, where people were getting sick and burned?
Yeah, that's the South Atlantic anomaly that had moved up over the Canary Islands and the Spain region. And Stuart, I can verify right now, I've been watching for the last couple of years. I'm up high here in the South, and we've had a lot of the construction or structures and materials around where I live up here have degraded rapidly, very rapidly.
Well, there's no question there are changes going on, and you go out and when the sun is really bright, and it literally burns the skin. You feel it like you're being peppered with something. Anyway, here's more good news for all you folks out there. More sets for extreme weather, including cold, sudden freezes, and bizarre precipitation. Some sets include ice storms, new forms of thunder snow, in which lightning is forecast as performing in ways never before photographed. These sets are found in supporting positions of weather across most of the northern hemisphere. That's kind of interesting. A new form of UV light that will become a real problem for humans at many different levels, and this has already occurred. So we're in, he says, for a long winter, maybe into May, maybe partially into June before it's over. In 2018, maybe even worse. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sound like crop failures and the inability to grow crops for some time coming up.
Yep, that's exactly right. It's stealth famine that you and I have been reporting on for some time. It's going to hit, and it's going to hit with a vengeance. That's why we've told people to go out and prepare for yourselves. Anyway, how do they reach you, Larry? We're running out of time here.
The quickest way is my blog, LarryWTaylor.org. That's LarryWTaylor.org.
All righty, and folks, please do write us at Enigma, ENIGMA, at True, drop the E on True, TRU, insight.com. And if you want us to investigate certain subjects or talk about certain things, we'd be happy to do so. Anyway, good night, everybody, and thanks for listening. And it's a wild, wild world out there. Anyway, good night.